Hi, everyone. I'm Ben.
And I'm Andrea. We are the ongoing strategy experts here at WebFX.
In this video, we'll discuss 2023 marketing trends. So stick around to see how you can future-proof your business. Now, let's dive into the first topic, Google, SEO, and content. Big news in the analytics world. Google is retiring Universal Analytics around July of 2023, and they're transitioning everything to GA4. So the question is, what does GA4 mean for marketers?
So yeah, the GA4 switch has definitely been a big hit for everybody. It's really important to get your GA4 up and running now, so it's collecting that data for you. And then that way, when we're headed into actually July of 2023, it's going to stop taking in data into the regular Google Analytics. So that way you have that historic data available to you, ready to run. You can check that everything's going well for you. Another thing you might need to keep in mind for GA4 is it's going to measure stuff very differently from Google Analytics. So just keeping that in mind, some of that data coming through is different, reading up as much as you can on some of those differences. Some of that tracking is just going to show very differently for you. And the other thing that we actually will cover later is first-party data. So we are, really moving to a system that is going to better track some of that first-party data. It's not going to rely on third-party data as much as Google Analytics has. Keeping on the topic of Google, there have been a lot of major updates this year, one of which is the helpful content update. What exactly does this update do?
So this is essentially a site-wide update that was rolled out in August of this year. And what it does is it targets websites that have a high amount of unhelpful content. So essentially, people are writing for search engines first.
Right.
Really not an effective way to go. Typically, what we recommend is writing for the user and really thinking about the content you're developing and making sure we're fitting the right intent for users. So a good example would be developing, content for a category page or a product page in an e-commerce website.
Right.
So essentially, it used to be, hey, let's add a lot of words here, long form content, things like that. And that really doesn't fit the bill for users coming in. So making sure we're really thinking about like what's going to solve the problem the person's trying to, figure out. And I like to use the example sometimes of someone trying to look for a recipe. We've all done this. I want to make pumpkin spice pancakes, and I go to that recipe page, and I have to scroll through 50,000 words to get to the actual recipe. So think about like what experience should the user really get when they're trying to figure out a problem. That's a great place to start when you're thinking about how to approach an algorithm update like the helpful content update. At WebFX, we've been really thinking about the users first anyway with content development. So we are ahead of the curve here. It doesn't mean you can't use AI tools. You can't use, data collection or think about keywords. But just the way we're structuring content, the depth of content, we really need to make sure we're thinking about UX as well when we're putting that together.
So how can we make sure we're producing helpful content?
It's really not a surprise, but we need to make sure we're focusing on people first. So essentially, we can still use all of the tools we have at our disposal, like keywords, but Google really cares about satisfying the customers and creating a good experience for them. So, we all interact with content differently. We all have different intents coming in. And essentially, we don't want to make that a cumbersome process for the users. And that's really the great guide when you jump into content development. So essentially, when you hear anything like AI content writers and things like that, run and hide, get away from it as fast as possible. We still need people to develop authentic, real content, but we can still use AI tools. And that's what we do here. I mean, we develop tools internally to, analyze competition, see what sites are ranking, figure out how they're being developed, structured, the depth of content, not just the keywords that we're targeting, but what related topics are there to make sure we're covering the right things. And that way we're developing content that fits the intent of the user.
Yeah, makes sense. We lean on our clients that we work with a lot too, just making sure what are your customers asking you, and getting that kind of data really helps us out as well. So with that said, it's time to get into another important marketing topic, advertising and martech enabled campaigns.
Yes. So, many companies out there like Apple and Google are giving users the option to protect their personal data. So essentially what that means is, while they're browsing the web, we can't always tap into that. So this means for marketers that there's really less third-party data for us to leverage that really help fuel our campaigns and figure out what we should do and even understand performance metrics. So do these changes mean anything in digital marketing? specifically advertising. And, as marketers, what can we do with the lack of third-party data? How do we offset that? How do we adapt? And I would say even more specifically, how does this impact MarTech, and what role does that play in our campaigns?
Yeah, it's a good question. Definitely some big changes there. So with those less third-party data, really that's those cookies that are tracking people across the web. We're seeing people opt out. Targeting is going to take a bit of a hit. It's going to be even tougher to measure. So the campaigns you are running now that heavily depend on third-party audience targeting, those will still run, but you may start to see an impact on results. And there are a few things that we are recommending. So one is that switch to GA4 that we talked about earlier. And if you're running Google Ads, not many people know this, but switch over to enhanced conversion tracking. That's going to help fill in the blanks where they're not able to gather a cookie for a visitor for part of the journey. The second part is really important. There's a really big opportunity here to lean on your first-party data. And I think people are a little scared about that, but it's actually just the data that comes into your from audiences visiting your site, actions to your site. And you can get that by building out conversions on your site to help gather that data. So think like newsletter sign up, chats, forms on your site to collect that. And then if you need help getting that, pushing that a little bit more, run campaigns that are going to help pull in that top of funnel audience that's just starting to look and research your brand. And you'll be able to remarket to them later, which is really great. And you actually do get some advantages there. I know people are a little sad about the third-party data. That's still going to be there to an extent, but first-party actually has some really great advantages. It's a better list. It's a list that your competitors don't have. Like your competitors can't market to your email marketing list. And you can run all kinds of cool things off of it, remarketing emails, automated emails. And then, of course, we now have all this data. So what do you do with it? And that's where pulling in a customer data platform, a really good CRM, and making those work for you is going to be important.
So I think, as you collect this first party data, there's a lot of things we can do with that. Outside of just targeting those people, we can use all the data points of those individuals to develop modeled audiences off of that. So, it's really exciting if you're tracking customers end to end and you understand not just the leads coming in, but the ones that actually become closed business and they drive revenue for you. There's a lot of characteristics about those people. That's first party data you have, and you can leverage that and send that to those different platforms to develop modeled audiences, whether it's in Google, if it's in social media. And that does a great job of really leaning into the data they have in a way that's still compliant with privacy and allows you to still grow your business at the same time. So are there any emerging marketing strategies that work really well when we're implementing MarTech?
Yeah, it's a good question. So right now we've got all that data. There's some great ways to use that in your marketing campaigns, as well as just some additional reporting that people haven't really had access to before. So one of the big points for reporting is, especially if you're lead gen, previously you couldn't really see like, hey, someone has completed an action as a qualified customer and is now closed, and we have the lead and revenue associated data for that. We can now track that back through the system and really leverage that for a lot of different things. It actually ends up being reporting similar to an e-commerce site where we're seeing the revenue, we're seeing the return on investment tied back to your marketing campaigns. You can make better decisions on where you want to drive more leads and customers. The second part of it that's really cool is previously some of these higher funnel conversions have been hard to track, and people just kind of ignored the value of a sign up or a free trial or a newsletter from a customer, but there's a lot of value there, and this allows us to build on that moving forward. And again, I think I said this already, but all that same data can go into email. You can run programmatic ads. We have a platform called AdTechFX that you can run that on. You can actually do automated emails for that based on where the customer is on your funnel, literally directly out of your CRM.
Right. A real exciting thing if you have like that integrated tech stack. You have your marketing attached to your CRM. You're seeing where the customers are coming, where they're going, how they're closing. A lot of people initially have been optimizing their campaigns and training the machine learning in Google based off just generating leads.
Yep.
And that's great if that's all you have. But the next step that's really exciting is being able to optimize not just off the leads you're generating, but off the qualified leads in the closed business. So telling Google, hey, you got us these leads, but the ones that close are the ones we want. And that really helps to improve our lead quality. And at the end of the day, it helps us improve ROI, training Google's algorithms and our other platforms to get us to qualified leads rather than just overall leads over time.
Yeah.
And that's a big opportunity for folks who are integrating a CRM with their
Mhm.
marketing.
So these martech enabled strategies are definitely going to be more popular over time, but all of these tactics require investment. So how do we prioritize marketing spend with the current economy? What tactics will require larger investment? And what should a marketer do to figure out the best budget for them?
Yeah, we get this question a lot. What's the thing I should do, the thing I should focus on? So the first thing we need to think about are what are the metrics that help us guide decisions for our
Mhm.
business, right? And my first piece of advice is to start by thinking about more than just a single year. That's especially important now. We need to think about things in terms of 5 and 10 year spans, right? So we need to make sure we're still building flexibility because there's a lot of unknowns, but the short term mindset is really not a good perspective to have in business right now. If we look at like consumer discretionary sector right now, I mean, that's down 20 to 30% year over year. But, over the last 5 years, it's been up 70%.
Right.
The people who have invested in the short term, in the long term, have really benefited. So Amazon didn't turn a profit for the first 7 years of existence, right? Imagine, think about the marketing they were putting in place and what the KPIs and metrics were that they were putting in place because they were
Mhm.
focused on growth and not profitability. So we answer the metrics that matter question by establishing the business objectives. And if your marketing is aligned with that, right? That's the first step here in figuring this out. It's different for everybody. Everyone got kind of used to this COVID boom. I hate to bring up that word again, but it kind of sets some unrealistic expectations of what to
Right.
expect with marketing investments. And we need to take a step back from that and really start thinking about, what we're doing. Like if I invested in a mutual fund, I don't expect to sell it in a year and have a profit. It's a long-term investment, and our marketing needs to kind of shift and be thinking about that. So the short answer to this question is that what we really need to be thinking about is building strong integrated data, building an analytics warehouse,
Yep.
make sure everything's connected and we understand the beginning to the end of leads. And that's the foundation everything else is built on. It helps us answer a lot of questions, what to focus on. And then on top of that, like we always say,
Yep.
SEO is the best long-term investment.
Right.
So that's where the dollar should go now. The people who invested in SEO right when COVID started benefited greatly as the market picked up. And there's really not a lot different right now.
Right.
If we are uncertain or if things are kind of stagnant, those investments now we've seen, when the market picks up and search volume increases, it's really going to pay for itself in the long term. When we understand the role each channels play, we start to understand the KPIs we need to establish. Measuring everything with the same KPI doesn't make sense, but it's kind of hard to figure that out without getting everything integrated and understanding what's happening from beginning to end.
Right. We need that combined data
Right.
to get together.
Right. And this is important for obviously lead gen with a CRM
Mhm.
to know the leads we're generating, what's happening with the leads, what channels did those leads touch to
Yeah.
drive action. But it's important for e-commerce too. Even though we see the revenue out of the
Mhm.
gate, we still get stuck in this siloed multi-channel approach. How's SEO doing? How's PPC doing? How's social ads doing?
Yeah.
But really, it's about how those things work together.
Yeah.
And that's what's the most important thing right now. But it's all built off understanding your first party data, understanding what's driving action and revenue, getting everything connected in one place. And that allows you to build those really good decisions long term.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. SEO is great. PPC is great. But it's really going to depend on the business. And we need to figure out that data answer before we can make those recommendations. So really invest in analytics. Invest in answering that question, the end-to-end,
Yep.
Customer journey.
Yeah. It definitely feels like it's all about the data going into 2023.
So a lot of things we talked about today, first-party data being extremely important as we, lose some of that tracking and cookies and things like that next year. And then we talked about the problem a lot of customers have with disjointed data. They have a CRM over here, they have marketing over here. It's not communicating. They don't understand what's happening with the leads they're generating and what revenue they're getting from it and what actually drove that action. And I think, the solution to a lot of that is MarketingCloudFX. It's that data warehouse where we can collect all that first party data, where those customers are coming from. We can integrate it with the CRM and we really understand the beginning to the end and answer a lot of the questions that people have as far as like, what do I invest in? What's the right decision to make moving forward?
Yeah, exactly. It helps keep everything together in
Mhm.
one place that was super disjointed before. And then we actually have a full team that can help get those integrations in place and really get things going from there. So we've seen some really good results.
So we work with clients in the e-commerce space, in the lead generation space, and the unique problem that the clients in lead generation have is managing their leads.
Mhm.
And so having a real strong CRM is going to be extremely important to make sure we're fully leveraging, something like Marketing Cloud Effects.
Yeah, so it really can be, a CRM like Nutshell is great for you. It's anything that is going to help your sales team keep up with those leads, keep track of them, and then, really enable you to leverage all that good customer data, especially since we talk so much about first party data and how important that is moving into 2023.
Yeah, managing your leads helps marketers get you better leads and more leads. And that's extremely important
Mhm.
to be able to leverage all the marketing technology and Marketing Cloud FX or tools similar to that. And that's just about all the time we have. 2023 is definitely going to be another year of change for marketers, but I'd say we have a pretty good opportunity here and we're kind of used to it by now. So
That's
take
very
it,
true.
yeah, bring it on.
If you're a marketing professional looking for some help with your digital marketing in 2023, don't hesitate to reach out to our team. Ben, myself, many other experts here would be happy to help you drive revenue next year, the year after that, and moving forward over that long term.
Thanks everybody for tuning in today, and we hope that you have a very successful 2023.